Hey guys, what's up? PizzaLovingNerd here. Today we'll be doing a side-by-side comparison of both Phosh and Plasma Mobile. So we have Plasma on the right here and Phosh on the left. Both of these Pine phones are running Arch ARM on 2GB with 16 gigs of storage Pine phones. I believe this one, let me check. Yeah, this is my UBports one, and this is my Braveheart Pine phone. So let's get into the video. Let's start with a simple boot test. So I'm gonna hold the button down in 3, 2, 1. And these should both be booting now. Okay, it looks like this one's delayed by a split second. So if this one wins only by a split second, then they're gonna be the same. These are both running Arch ARM, and so I believe the only variable here should be the desktop environment. And Phosh is first by a long shot. So let's just sign into Phosh. Plasma is still going, and when you get into Phosh after you type your passcode, you're in immediately. Plasma was about 5 or 6 seconds behind, but once you enter your passcode, you have to go through this loading screen again. So for boot speed, Phosh wins. Next up, let's open up the terminal and just see how much resources these are using. So htop and htop. Can I type on the Plasma one? Here we go. It looks like the Phosh one has a little bit more tasks. However, Phosh is using slightly less memory than Plasma Mobile is. So that's good for Phosh, I guess. However, Plasma Mobile is using quite a bit less CPU right here compared to Phosh. So I think Plasma Mobile's the winner because it's only using slightly more memory. However, the CPU usage is much lower. Let me turn the brightness up so you can see it better. Okay, oh wow, actually the CPU usage went up as I turned the brightness up. Let's see if the Phosh does the same. Doesn't look like there's a boost in CPU usage, just messing with the oh, never mind, I stand corrected. It's actually a bigger CPU usage boost. Alright, performance-wise, in terms of resources, Plasma wins. It's using slightly more RAM, but it seems to be better at managing the CPU, and it has less tasks running in general. Now, before we do any more tests on performance, let's go through the UIs of both of them real quick. So both have lock screens. Phosh's is just black, whereas Plasma Mobile has a background for its lock screen, and both of them have a passcode when you swipe up. So the lock screens are very similar to each other. However, the home screen has a lot more differences. So Phosh, for example, is just a black background with all of your apps, and Plasma Mobile is a little bit more Android-like in terms of the layout, where you have a little app drawer with all of your apps, whereas if you go down, you have, the standard Android home screen where you can set up your pages and stuff. Both of them have little search bars that you can type and search stuff in. I like Phosh's search UI a little bit better, whereas this is like a button that opens up another search thing. I don't know why that is. Both of them have control centers that are very similar. Phosh's you just tap the top, whereas Plasma Mobile's you swipe down. And as you can see, Plasma Mobile has 5 little quick shortcuts right here, just like Android. And Phosh has 8 that are up off the bat, as well as your volume and brightness. However, Plasma, you have to swipe down even further, and you get your brightness, and you get even more controls for other things. On top of that, notifications will show up under these control centers for both of them. However, I don't have any notifications right here to show it off right now. As for navigation, once you launch an app, Phosh just has one button on the bottom that takes you to not only your app drawer, but also your recent apps. And so if I open a second app here on the Phosh side, as you can see, now all of my apps show up, and you can close them by swiping up, kind of like iOS and Android. And Plasma's app layout is a lot more like Android's navigation bar layout. You have a little square, which is your multitasking right here, and instead of being in like cards, kind of like iOS and modern versions of Android, it's more of like a grid of 4, and instead of swiping up, you just tap the X button. If you want to go home, there's the little Plasma home button in the middle, and there's also an X button which completely closes it although I do think that X button is a little bit unnecessary given that you can just go to your app switcher and close an app through this. So yeah, overall layout wise, I think I like Phosh a little bit better, although I think Plasma Mobile looks better cosmetically. Now let's do some app tests and just launch some apps, see which ones launch the quickest. Keep in mind these are technically different apps because these are all KDE apps on the Plasma side and Phosh uses a bunch of GNOME apps. So really right here we're really comparing the speed of application stacks more than we are the desktop environments themselves. Although I do think the stacks are just as important. So we're going to launch the Clocks app on both of them in 3, 2, 1. Now, well, Phosh, that was instant. Plasma Mobile, it's a little bit longer. I do like how Plasma Mobile has a little splash screen, whereas Phosh doesn't have that. It just shows your wallpaper on Phosh. That's actually the only time you see your wallpaper on Phosh. So let's try some other apps too. Let's try the terminals. Again, Phosh is ahead, Plasma is a little bit more behind. And let's try the file managers. Now keep in mind Portfolio is not an official Phosh app. It is kind of a community developed app to have a mobile file manager. However, it does load faster than Plasma Mobile's Index. Like a lot faster. Like this is still going. There we go. Once you're in an app though, they seem to both be equally as smooth, and generally the UI on both of them seems to be just as fast. It's a little bit hard to compare this because this is a swipe and this you tap. I guess let's go to the home screen on both of them at the same time. Yeah, they're about the same. Plasma Mobile used to be a little bit more stuttery than Phosh did. However, it has gotten significantly better. I think Plasma Mobile, other than the app launching, is probably just as fast as Phosh is now. So speed-wise in the UI generally, they'll be about the same speed. However, Plasma Mobile does take longer for its apps to launch. Oh, actually, let's try the music players, because these are kinda big apps. Yeah, see, Phosh still showing the Files app until the music player launches. Here's Lollipop. I don't have any music here, but Wave on the Plasma side is still loading, and there it goes. That actually surprised me quite a bit, because Lollipop is pretty bloated, I will say. So, really, they're about equal in terms of speed, except for apps and boot time being a little bit slower on the Plasma Mobile side, as well as the UI being a personal preference thing. So honestly, I wouldn't choose which DE to use based on just speed. I'd really try out both of them, see which user interface you prefer. I think I prefer Plasma Mobile's UI, but I really like the GNOME stack of apps on Phosh better than a lot of the Plasma apps. So for that reason, personally, I would still go with Phosh. However, Plasma Mobile is a very good option. And so really, this whole comparison thing, all of this now is personal preference depending on which one you prefer. So yeah, that's the video. Thanks for watching this video, and thanks to all my patrons, including the ones who donate $5 or more a month, which is Marius Gripsgard, Jim Peter, Mitchell Valtino, and Frank. Please consider checking out my Patreon because I am about to have some bigger benefits than I do now that involve software that you wouldn't be able to get without Patreon. And I'd like to do more hardware-like videos, like I want to do some videos on single-board computers and stuff, and that's how it would be funded. So, consider checking out my Patreon, and thanks for watching.